Welcome to the Thunder and Lightning Show. John the Son of Thunder here with Ryan the Retrograde. And today, Ryan is faced with an allegation of taking super chat money. So,
This,
Ryan, what do you have to say to that?
John, these very serious allegations have surfaced, and that I had accepted super chat money illegally without declaring it. And I'm certainly sorry to everyone for taking their super chat money and misappropriating it. And John, I offer you my resignation from this program to make up for my high crimes and misdemeanors against the John the Son of Thunder program.
Well, I have to say that I'm shocked. I'm shocked at your humility. That you would humbly offer your resignation for these crimes, even though I personally believe that they're not necessarily even crimes. There are this actually mirrors the very humble. I can think of a few cardinals actually. Cardinal Marx in Germany, I believe Cardinal World. He offered his resignation humbly, even though
Humbly, yes.
he may have reason to have done what he did, according to Pope Francis. And also, I believe it was the Archbishop of Hamburg, Archbishop Hesse, who also humbly resigned when they had much greater, more in-depth allegations than you do. And so I wish to decline your resignation. I wish for you to continue to accompany me on this program, and and this was not. And I do want to make a statement to the viewers. This was not predetermined in any way.
Not at all.
We had
No.
never, we had not discussed this previously, and there's no reason why any of you should believe anything other than that. I mean, we're completely we're being 100% honest here, and this is the humility of the modern church. And
So
I don't
humble.
I don't know what
John,
else to
I
say.
John, I am so emboldened and I have such confidence in your great leadership over the John the Son of Thunder program. And I think that after we put this episode behind us, that we will soar onto greater heights of YouTube success, worldwide fame, etc., etc. Your mercy is the greatest of all mercies, and I don't know who's better, you or Pope Francis, but this has been what a tremendous experience.
Well, I'm just doing what Greta would do, right?
Absolutely,
I,
that's what you have to ask. Yeah, what would she do?
all right. Well, anyway, uh, that's all right. That's out of the way. Um, let's get to the next topic because it's hard to speak modernist for more than a few minutes.
Yeah, I think I hurt myself talking that way. The next topic, do you want to go ahead and introduce that, John?
Sure, Father Jackson of the FSSP. Now I'm going to pull up this article. He is,
Yes,
or not the article, it's a bulletin
mhm.
link. He
And
is
I want to
from,
call.
go
I
ahead.
want to call him Father Stonewall Jackson of the priestly fraternity of St. Peter. He is out. We talked about the Second Great Liturgical War. Here we have Father Stonewall Jackson, who has now become a general in the Second Great Liturgical War, and he has published his battle plan in the parish bulletin. And John, you have that.
Yeah, he's from St. Mary's Catholic Church in Providence, Rhode Island. Published this in September 26th, so just very recently, and he laid out a bunch of plans. So, would you like me to read this?
Yeah. Well, I'll just question you about it, going paragraph by paragraph. So, the first thing I noticed is that, excuse me, he mentions about that they have a project working on their basement there, and there was a question about, hey, should we go ahead with this project or what?
Yeah, and he said, well, let me see. I've been asked. Okay, I've been asked about the project. Uh, could the Pope just suppress the FSSP? Yes, and if he did, the Bishop of Providence would be left trying to provide for your needs, which would be a daunting task for him. The worst case scenario would be that we are ordered to leave this diocese and the parish would be closed. Could this happen? Yes. If it did, I've already made up my mind what I'm not going to do. So do you have any thoughts on that so far?
Well, so far, it seems like I'm glad that he's considering this worst case scenario because that's something that we do and something like Chicken Little Trads do. By the way, I saw Chicken Little Catholic. He is alive and well, and he commented on one of your videos. So I hope
Well,
Chicken Little Catholic shows up again. He has one of the funniest account names. But he says, worst case scenario, we get kicked out of diocese, parish closed. Could it happen? Yes. So he gives Bergoglio zero credit for, and basically even his own bishop, who I believe that's the so-called Good Tobin, isn't it, from Rhode Island?
yes, and he would be one of the more friendly bishops towards the
Yeah.
FSSP.
So he basically says, dude, there's nothing you can do against Big Bad Bergie. He's going to huff and puff and blow the Fraternity of St. Peter down, and nobody can stop him. So that's just what I'm reading right there from Father Stonewall Jackson.
Yeah, and I like his upfront, the upfront language that he uses. He's not
Yeah.
sugarcoating anything.
No, and it's not. Somebody pointed out he's a retired Marine, and I actually met him before. I'm cracking open a drink here. This is not a beer. This is, ladies and gentlemen, La Coulombe Coffee Vanilla Draft. This is they are the new sponsors of the JSOT, John the Son of Thunder program, and they're giving us millions to in sponsorship. So drink, not to be confused with Charles Coulombe, La Coulombe Coffee. But I actually met Father Stonewall Jackson. Um, it was in about 2001, and he was the rector of the Fraternity of St. Peter Seminary in Nebraska. And I went there on a vocations visit, and I had a one-on-one meeting with him at least once or twice. And I thought he was a really cool guy. He told me his story that he was Marine, and then after that, then he became, I believe, diocesan priest of a diocese in Kansas, and then he switched over to Fraternity of St. Peter. And he's pretty trad. He's the author of that book, Nothing Superfluous, which is a really good book about the Latin Mass. And he's into the pre-55, the authentic Roman Rite. So every time I've heard him talk or give a sermon or whatever, and like I said, I've met him in real life, so I've always thought he's solid. But yeah, straight shooter. He's not going to beat around the bush. He's just going to be frank with you, and he's not like bombastic or anything. But I give him credit for being straightforward.
Yeah, and the rest of this is like very upfront. So I'm
Yeah.
going to continue here. He said, I'm going to make up my mind what I'm not going to do. I won't go independent. I've seen way too much schism in that department. Nor will I join the SSPX as if they'd have me. I would instead retire, get a small house with my meager savings, and hit the road in some area such as this one, going around celebrating Mass at people's houses, all underground, of course, keeping the Mass alive and waiting for better times. And so I want to talk about the first part of that statement. You say, I won't go independent, I won't join the SSPX, as if they'd have me. Though that was an interesting comment. I just wonder if he's thinking the SSPX are extremely particular about who they take in, what priests they take in. I don't know.
I don't know about that, because my understanding is, do I know anybody that's joined that after they've been a diocesan? No, but I do know that they do admit diocesans. I know that, for instance, Father Samuel Waters, who you can find on YouTube, he's the chaplain at the Independent Chapel in York, Pennsylvania. Father Samuel Waters, he's a former diocesan from, I believe, Archdiocese of Philadelphia, and he was inactive for a while. I think they punished him by giving him a laicization, which doesn't really do anything. It's just a way for them to say, we don't have to pay your bills and we hate you. Please die and go away. It doesn't really do anything because you're a priest forever. So, but I think he entertained SSPX. He visited them. Again, you can find this great interview with him. There's episode 1 and episode 2. Episode 1 with Father Samuel Waters, he talks about how he went and talked with SSPX, and he was somewhat interested in joining them, but he just kind of felt like it wasn't the right fit for him. They were interested. They liked him. They spent time with him, etc. Um, but yeah, Christopher Marlowe there points out, he says SSPX has a training program for diocesan priests. Yeah, I'm not that familiar with it, but I do know it exists. So, but I think Father Jackson is a little bit like, I don't know, maybe bitter or whatever, thinking the SSPX wouldn't like him. I think the SSPX would be glad to have him. SSPX just has to make sure that you're on board, like with the whole program. And that means that you are going to go along with the party line. And, the party line is basically Vatican II stinks, which anybody who's a traditionalist believes that already. To quote Father Hesse, forget Vatican II, put it on a bumper sticker, forget Vatican II. And that's what we've all done anyway. Who cares about it? It's the 60s
Yeah.
synod. It's like bell bottoms and leisure suits and lipstick and peppermint and that silly song like, ooh, the groovy 60s synod.
All right. Yeah. All right. So then moving on about
Well, I wanted to address the other thing about independent. I mean,
okay.
maybe he thinks that the problem with the independent chapels is that there's a lot of there can be personality issues and fighting amongst people in these independent chapels. There's always some controversy about like the status of the priest, like who ordained him and why is he kicked out? Did he molest or what's going on? Because there's basically no oversight in these independent chapels. So I think that's kind of what he's referring to, is all the schism that exists in these independent chapels, is it's constantly bickering, splitting. Who is the bishop who's in charge of this thing? It's really kind of a gray area. I'm not saying they're all bad, because again, I mentioned the Father Samuel Waters. That looks like a pretty up and up production down there in York. Yeah, he's like 99% sure he's a non-sedevacantist independent chapel that's pre-55, so it seems like it's a very liturgical place. But anyway, okay, so he's going to retire, go around doing the underground masses. Well, a lot of people have asked, Christopher Marlowe there at 709 asked the question, quote, I won't go independent, I'll go underground, question mark. Well, yeah, aren't they the same thing? And yeah, aren't they the same thing? Well, yes and no. I mean, independent is sort of like you've divorced yourself from a diocesan bishop. And maybe you associate with some other bishop. Maybe it's a sedevacantist bishop or sort of like a Williamson. So like SSPX Resistance or SSPX Marian Corps. That's pure independent. But it sounds like what he's saying is he's going to still have official faculties from the diocese, but just be retired and do private masses in various places, in people's houses and whatnot. And that's totally legit, as long as they're not published, ahead of time and they're turned into a big spectacle or whatever. That's totally allowed. Retired priests can do public mass. They can do private mass.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that he posted. I mean, this is in the bulletin. It's not just some secret memo we got.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's interesting he posted this in the bulletin.
Yeah, so it's good speculation. This is the kind of stuff we, ladies and gentlemen, on the John the Son of Thunder program, we're not afraid to talk about these bold things. But it's rare for a priest with diocesan or mainstream faculties to be this open about SSPX and independent, like rage retiring and going underground or whatever.
Yeah, so do you want to move to the next point?
Yeah, go ahead to the next one.
He says, as a society of apostolic life, is he referring to the FSSP here, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's FSSP.
Okay, he said we are very much working on each possibility and are planning how to fight like junkyard dogs if needed. But more than anything, we trust our Lord 100% that he knows what he is doing when he permitted the motu proprio of this Pope. Our Lord told us that there is only one whom we should fear, and it isn't the Pope or some cardinal with a chip on his shoulder about tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this addresses the concerns. I know Taylor Marshall, did he criticize the FSSP and the Institute for issuing that weak statement?
The leadership for issuing that weak statement.
And I think that, and my comments were actually a lot more like neutral. I said I took the wait and see approach, which is the most boring. It's not gonna, it's not.
What
gonna
about
get
the
likes.
hot takes? How do we get John?
Yeah.
Put money first. We have to rage. Like get screenshots here. Raging.
Actually, I wanted to do an anti-Taylor Marshall what is it? Tim Gordon's a rage video against Tim Gordon's anti-Taylor Marshall
That's
video.
what it was. Yeah, we were gonna do an anti-Tim Gordon, anti-Taylor Marshall video, and then after that was done, then I was gonna like critique your rage video or whatever, and then you could critique my rage video. So it would be like to the fourth power critiques.
Yeah, but this actually confirms more what I was thinking, is that the FSSP and the Institute, they release their statement, but underground or behind closed doors, they're talking amongst themselves like, okay, what are the situations here, and how do we, how do we plan for each situation? And I see the Tim Gordon hair flip. Hey, I wish I had hair like Tim Gordon.
We don't have the hair, so we'll just have to rage even more.
I used to be in a band.
Yeah, you should show sometime. You could show people the pictures when you were in a rock band and had long hair.
Yeah, I'll have to find the video. It was down past my shoulders.
Ladies and gentlemen, after he turned trad, he got all his tattoos erased. He got his hair cut. He got his hair cut short, and burned his skateboard.
All of my tattoos were temporary, and my earrings were magnets, so I didn't have any problems.
Getting all that stuff reversed.
And quite honestly, I still have them. I just don't wear them.
I don't know if I mentioned this to you this weekend or on an email or whatever. I'm not picking on Tim Gordon or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, somebody who's like 40 years old or whatever, what are you doing with long hair, soul patches, tattoos, and skateboards? And I mean, he's got a family and a bunch of kids too. So I don't really get that, but you do you. I'm just saying that's kind of.
Well, and I will say one thing I want to point out before we move on with Tim Gordon. He did release his book against feminism.
Yes.
And that I don't think that I've heard anything about that. I did actually go to his channel, and he did have a quick interview with Father Mark Goring, and on that he was talking about his book against feminism that he was like hyping up for years. And I was like, oh, it's finally released.
Yeah.
And so and he's really good on those topics. Like, he made some really good points. He said that all feminism is bad.
Exactly. It's bold. Who else is writing about this topic? Who is afraid? And I'm actually glad it's coming from him and not some SSPX super duper rad trad person like Christopher Ferrara or Attila Cinque Guillermoreus, because when Tim Gordon writes, it's middle of the road anti-SSPX. He can still go on Church Militant with Michael Voris and all that stuff. And he is incredible. So it's great. I'm glad he came out with a book. It's not hyped enough. I haven't read it. I would like to get a copy of it.
No, like, I'm hyped for it. I mean, I'm not one to spend, $20+ on a book, on just any book.
Yeah.
But that's certainly one where it caught my attention when he was talking about it years ago.
And
now I'm like,
finally it's out.
Yeah, and basically the things that he has discussed that I've heard him, of the limited topics that I have heard him discuss, I'm like, wow, this is something that needs to be said in today's politically correct society.
Yes.
And even though, like, a lot of Catholics are not politically correct, a lot of them would not even go as far as Tim Gordon has gone in terms of feminism.
They're feminist. There's a lot of feminists, even in, I don't want to say even amongst traditionalist Catholics, but even amongst the conservative Catholics, there's feminists, and I can't say much about Tim Gordon.
No, I think the book is called "The Case for the Patriarchy." It doesn't
Yeah.
even say anything about feminism
Yeah.
in the title, which that would
Because I
actually be
thought he
pretty
said
funny.
he was teasing the title before as "No Catholic Feminism."
Yeah, so I don't know if the publishers thought it was too radical for them, like the title was
Yeah.
too radical,
Is
but
it Sophia Institute Press or is it somebody
I
else?
I don't know. But
Okay.
that actually should be a recommended make me a sandwich. That should be a recommended title for a sequel.
Make me a sandwich. Yes. And his wife could be on the cover of it, like with an apron on and
Yeah, and she's all
make me a
about that
sandwich.
stuff.
I
So
know because she's
yeah,
totally anti-feminist, so it's great.
yeah,
God
yeah,
bless anti-feminist women. If there's any out
yeah.
there watching this program, I cheer to the anti-feminist woman.
All right. Well, getting back to Father Jackson. Um, yeah. So that was my statement on that. I'm going to move
Well,
on.
I wanted to point out there that he's basically taken this like a man saying, anti-chicken little Alfred E. Newman, what me worry? He's not worried. He says like Almighty God is completely in charge of this situation. He can smash a fraternity of St. Peter. He could wipe out, he could like strike down Bergoglio right now. Bergoglio could be, curtains right now for all we know if Almighty God zaps him, and he could inspire these guys to elect, like me, to the papacy. So it's certainly possible. So God could fix this problem with everything right away. But so
Yeah.
what Stonewall Jackson is doing is behind closed doors, as Trump used to say. He's not telegraphing. He's not calling the Chinese on the phone and saying like, "I'll let you know if I'm going to attack." Stonewall Jackson is not calling Bergoglio and saying like, "I'll let you know if we're going to attack." They're making plans quietly for whatever happens. They've got contingency plans, and so he says he's not afraid. He's not afraid. He's going to make sure that people have access to the sacraments and whatnot. So, and there he's talking about going around to people's houses. So that's terrific.
So this next part was pretty good. He says, "By now you've heard about the grave restriction of our work in Mexico. I talked about this on an EVTN show. He said it is not 100%, and maybe we can hang on down there for better times, but better times may not be coming. To be honest, I have a feeling that this is the end of our work in Mexico. We will lose many." I was like kind of shocked to read that because he's like, I mean, he was up front, but then he's like really up front.
Yeah, it
He's
seems
like,
like he's saying we lost Mexico. But, the good thing is if fraternity loses Mexico, SSPX is already there. And then there's the Sedevacantist Society of Trent, which has a big presence down there. And the bishop, see, you have to understand what's going on in South America is the bishops are committing ritual suicide. All the Catholics have left and gone to evangelical sects, Pentecostals and whatnot. The only ones who are left are really watered down, like mariachi band Novus Ordos. There's a small number of traditionalists, but those people have always gone to SSPX and Society of Trent. And so it's only since Fraternity of St. Peter has basically come along and said, we're losing everybody. We stink. The Novus Ordo sect is the worst. They're good at nothing. They don't do anything well. They have crappier preaching than the Pentecostals. They don't juggle snakes and charm snakes. They don't have rock bands and smoke machines. They don't have miraculous fake healings like Benny Hinn. They don't have preachers like a TD Jakes or anybody like that. They have watered down Catholicism with a terrible Novus Ordo rite. They've got communion in the hand, and then a Catholic, comes along with soul and wants to try to do something and have a nice liturgy, actually do Catholicism well. And this clown bishop, who's probably a Freemason, he shuts the whole thing down. So basically, if you want to keep Catholicism, you have to go to SSPX or you have to go to Society of Trent because you're not finding it from the Diocesan Bishop down there.
now I have a question about the South American bishops. Do you know if they sort of follow the politics, because I know that in South America, there's one thing about South America: the politicians, the governments are extremely corrupt. Like you think the United States government is corrupt, South America, I mean, it's basically just like the presidents. They say how much money can we get, basically how much money can we get at the expense of everyone else. So
Hmm.
they'll have a highway being built, but then there won't be enough money. Like I heard this one scenario, I think it was in Brazil. There was a highway being built, but then they ran out of materials and they ran out of money, and so they just stopped it. And the government could have given them the money, but instead they're too busy like building their 100,000 seat soccer stadium for the Olympics, and then there's like 4,000 people in it for a regular soccer game. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, it's pure corrupt. Like
Every
it's unbelievable corruption.
South America is a train wreck, mostly because of leftism. Before the council, there was all a bunch of right wing governments down there, and you had rad trad bishops, and you had confessional states. And then after Vatican II came the um, I just said the name. What was the name of that Catholicism that was like Marxism?
What confessional?
No, no. What's that Marxist brand of Catholicism called? Liberation theology. Okay, so
That's
they
it.
got all
Yeah.
infected with the liberation theology, and that ruined everything. And the bishops are basically, just like in America, they're mouthpieces of the Democrat Party. And in South America, they're mouthpieces of whatever the leftist regimes happen to be. Thanks to like USSR and Sandinistas and all that stuff. So their trendy web gave me the liberation theology. Um, they're bad, and what more can you say? They're just a train wreck, and it's not getting any better there. And who appoints all these bishops? John, do you know who appoints all the bishops?
Let me think about this. Ooh, I know a guy who would have some in-depth knowledge. His name is Pope Francis.
There, that
He would have some
guy.
in-depth knowledge of all the bishops in South America because
I'm
he was
sure.
once a bishop in
He
South
was
America.
once one down there, and he celebrated those pita bread masses, wearing hardly any vestments, and tango masses and all that stuff. But yeah, but allegedly the Holy Spirit picked this guy. So if you believe that, some Catholics can't claim to believe that. So yeah, Mexico is basically a train wreck, and it's probably the end of the work there. But Catholicism will live on thanks to SSPX and Society of Trent. No thanks at all to the Novus Ordo establishment, who is killing the whole thing off.
Okay, and as for Father Jackson, I'm going to skip forward a little bit. Some of it has to deal more with his parish than anything else, but he did say we had another priest burn out and step down from being a pastor. The pressure is great on our priests right now. But I guess I'm so used to the pressure and have good enough habits to deal with it that it doesn't get to me. One of the ways I do this is take a monthly day of recollection using the outdoors in all weathers. Spending a day outdoors, some wilderness is just right for me. Some intense contact with God and complete silence. So I think
Does he
that's a
endorse
pretty.
your outdoors channel?
No, he doesn't. But
Oh, he should.
I mean, that I do want to ramp that up a little more. I do want to basically post my life, make it a video blog.
You know what you could do is you
So
could go visit Father Stonewall Jackson and do a camping trip with him and like turn it into a YouTube show. You could go up to Father Anthony Hannon out there in the sticks in Canada and hang out with him and have him on your outdoors channel.
that's a goal of mine is to visit my favorite Canadian priests.
Yeah,
Maybe in a few years, once once the communists are uh, driven out of power in Canada, and I can cross the border. Um, but
you could always just sneak across, pretend you're a Haitian refugee.
I guess I just have to identify as a different skin color. But
Yeah, Father Mark Goring, he's another good and he likes the
yeah,
outdoors too.
yeah. I'd love to check out his what is it? His studio.
Well, it's
His
like just
outdoor cabin. It's a shipping
yeah,
container.
it's a shipping container.
It's pretty incredible what he's done with it, and he has like a porch on the top of it.
Oh,
It
does
looks
he?
really cool. I'd love to take a tour of that and meet him in person. And same with Father Hannon. I'd really like to meet him as well. Which, by the way, both of them are Novus Ordo priests. Get
I
that?
know. Yeah.
You have some really outspoken Canadian priests who are Novus Ordo priests. So
Yeah.
it's not, I criticize Novus Ordo, but not the priests or the people that attend it necessarily. So um, I think that's important to know. I don't know if there's any other noteworthy things in this bulletin. Did you see anything noteworthy?
Well, he says about that we need to prepare just like our ancestors for torture, imprisonment, whatnot.
Yes,
Um,
we are not any better than our ancestors. What happened to the Lord in this world can and sometimes will happen to us. So he's basically looking several steps ahead.
yeah.
And then he talks about, oh, here's the last thing I wanted to talk about. He said, the way we can get up in the morning, or the way we get up in the morning is tactical, but strategically we need a plan. This works for most people with few exceptions. But the key to a strategic plan is knowing your predominant fault. If you don't know it, then you'll have to search for it. Once you find it, then you'll find the opposite virtue is to the fault. All progress in the interior life has to do with progress in virtue, opposite of the predominant fault. And let's see here. That's about it. I
What do
think.
you think
Yes.
is the? Here's a good question. This could be a whole show. What is the predominant fault of the organization of the Fraternity of St. Peter?
I don't know.
I would just, off the top of my head, my guess is it is a too rosy eyed look at the Novus Ordo hierarchy as if they are your friends and have your best interests in mind. And what's that? What is that called in Saint Thomas Aquinas? That is called imprudence, probably. Um, if I were to think about the virtues, I would think that they're naive. Um, and then Christopher Marlowe just said there at 732, they don't reject Vatican II. Well, here's the thing about that. They actually, most of the priests do reject Vatican II and the seminarians too. They're just not allowed to say that we reject Vatican II. Again, I visited Fraternity of St. Peter Seminary in Denton. And I remember being at a Q&A there, and some kid asked, like, what is your position on Vatican II? And I was like, why would you even ask that question? And anyway, the answer was, well, we put it into I think the answer first was, well, we don't really talk about it all that much. And then everybody laughed. And then he said, we just put it in perspective with like all the other councils of the church. And, that's basically like, uh, here, to translate that into plain speak, they just say we ignored because it's stupid. That's what that meant.
It's
But they're not
irrelevant.
allowed to say that. They have to say, like, oh, Vatican II, so important and pastoral. But see, this is already being like deceptive in some sense because Christ said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. The proper answer should be just like SSPX, which officially would say, like, well, we accept the 95% of it that's in continuity with tradition. And then the other 5%, which is discontinuity with tradition and contradictory, we reject. And so there you go. And as Father Hesse would say, like one drop of poison spoils the whole soup. So there is poison there in Vatican II in some of those documents. So you just have to throw the whole thing out, plus and introduce the ambiguities. But see, Fraternity of St. Peter can't say that because they gave up their intellectual honesty for the sake of the canonical status. And now it's come to bite them.
Yeah.
But is the fault deception, deceptiveness? It's not a lie, but it's some sort of deception,
Yeah.
or is it an imprudence on their part? Are they naive, or are they deceptive? I don't know what their predominant fault is. I don't belong to the
Yeah.
Fraternity of St. Peter Parish, so I can't really comment on that.
Yeah. I don't know. I know there are a lot of good people at the FSSP though, so that's
Yeah.
I don't know what they think.
Yeah, Christopher
Um,
Marlowe says false obedience. And that's exactly like saying that and that's exactly saying like, oh, we love Vatican II and even though they're going to ignore it. And they're going to say, like, oh, we accept the new mass. We accept it so much. We'll never say it. And we don't want anything to do with it. I mean, again, it's just so stupid. The whole position of the fraternity. Father Hesse said this. The whole position of the Fraternity of St. Peter is absurd. It's like, why do you want the old mass? Because you're forced to say that the new mass is okay and the same. So why don't you, as he would say, just say the new mass? What's wrong with the new mass? You like the old because you just like it. It's not a matter of doctrine to you. So that's what I'm saying. This is obvious. Francis is going to say to them, you don't have any objection to the new mass. At least that's what you told me. So start saying it. You know, like back up your talk. Do you want to be part of this mainstream church? Then get with the program and say the new mass once in a while, or get lost. And Fraternity of St. Peter can't be honest enough of them. Can't be honest enough to just admit the facts. Just say it, Fraternity of St. Peter. We reject Vatican II and we reject the new mass. Was that hard? I say it every day. I wake up in the morning, I take a sip of water, and I say, I reject Vatican II and a new mass. Like Father Hesse, Christopher Marlowe at 7:35 takes a sip of wine. I drink wine because our Savior, he made wine, and he did not turn Pepsi into his body. I mean, into his blood, he turned wine. So, Fraternity of St. Peter, be honest with yourselves and be a man, and don't be so cowardly. Yeah, okay. That's a whole nother show. We should do that show.
Against the FSSP. Oh boy.
Well, it should be, we should outline the strengths and weaknesses. Actually, we'll just look at the predominant fault of each of these groups. Predominant fault of SSPX, predominant fault of SSPX resistance, SSPX-MC. I don't know if Marian Corps is the same thing as resistance. I don't know. Predominant fault of Institute of Christ the King, Institute of Good Shepherd. I don't know enough about them. Prominent fault of like SSPV. Prominent fault of the Sanborns and Dolans, prominent fault of the Society of St. Paul VI. But there is no, according to Parent Ryan, there is no predominant fault of the Society of St. Paul VI.
We don't focus on faults.
They don't. They're all been forgiven anyway because there's no sin.
You confess your sins to plants.
To plants, yeah.
Like they did in that one Protestant seminary.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all I have to say about that. You see here in the next paragraph, you can't read the next paragraph, but I can tell you it talks about the JAB, and he wrote an essay. Father Stonewall Jackson wrote about the jab.
And I didn't read that. I didn't read that essay.
So yeah, I read that. And basically, he said he used the guidance back when the Vatican was Catholic, and they issued Catholic statements that said you have to avoid the jab because of remote material cooperation with evil, and that's what he said. He said you can really only take this if there's an extreme reason to cooperate with evil. So he gave you the straight up position that is the position that used to be the position. Well, it's the position of the Catholic Church, but since what's in Rome is not really the Catholic Church anymore, it's a false sect or whatever of Bergoglianists. And anyway, that's more or less what he said. You can read it if you want.
And what I actually kind of want to go back to the home chapels, because this is something you talked about before, Ryan. Was the home chapels, and I know. It was interesting. New Liturgical Movement actually just let's see here. Yeah, New Liturgical Movement. Just recently, they posted an article about home chapels, and I thought this is really relevant, like to what we're talking about here and what Father Jackson is talking about. And so I'm going to share my screen. And let me scroll down here. They had photos of home chapels on New Liturgical Movement. They said post your home photos, and some of these are really nice, actually.
These home chapels are nicer than 95% of Novus Ordo parishes. This is stuff somebody slapped together in their basement. You can see how disgusting the Novus Ordo is when you see that somebody just threw together some spare parts and made a chapel that's nicer than these Novus Ordo churches. this is, if there's ever been I mean, there's a million indictments against the Novus Ordo, but this is another one just plain to see.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling a little bit. Look at this. I mean, the hardwood floor is really nice, and then the lights are really incredible on this one. And then look at like someone I don't know, someone probably had to build this. I mean, they might have been able to buy it, but this is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, that looks
Woodworking,
home built. Yeah.
woodworking is such a great skill. You can see based on right here, and you can build your own altar rail. And
Yeah.
oh, and then right here is a closet chapel.
Oh yeah,
It
closet
opens up.
chapel.
Yeah, so it's got like the door effect where it's almost like what the is it iconostasis in Byzantine
Yeah, the royal
liturgy where you
doors
open up.
opening.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, Dr. Peter Kwasniewski wrote this article, so no surprise that he was behind that. But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting that they decided to post this around the same time that Father Jackson wrote his statement in the bulletin. And home chapels, I mean, it depends on where you live, what kind of space you have available, and how to like the seating, how many people we can fit there. But it's going to be, I don't know that it's going to be necessary, but it's certainly going to be helpful. You can always have a backup plan of a home chapel, and it doesn't take a lot of work. Like you can see all the statues I have. Um, Grab a few of these, and some of them aren't very expensive, and you know, make a nice altar, and it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but that's all. I mean,
I went and basically to build a home altar in my house, I went and got a folding table from Walmart and put it up on stilts to get it the right height according to what was on New Liturgical Movement, and put some cloths on it and some. This thing costs less than $100 to get this thing together. So, and again, it's nicer than 90% of Novus Ordo churches. So there's 1 out of 10 is better than my slap together folding table. But it's not hard. You don't have to be Bernini or anything to get a good looking home chapel.
no, and if you have a little bit of space, or if you can create a little bit of space in your house, depending on how big it is, you can invite people over and have rosaries. You don't even have to have necessarily mass every time at these home chapels, and it's just a
Yeah.
really cool environment, especially if there's some restrictions on churches, like if you need to wear certain things in churches, or
Hmm.
if you need a permission slip or anything, you can just invite people over to your basement, to your home
Pray
chapel,
rosary,
and
pray
yeah,
vespers, um,
yeah.
devotions, all that stuff.
And I mean, I don't think that people would not come, but they'd be more inclined to come if you have this beautiful chapel, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Wow, this is," it just adds to the prayerful environment. So, um,
I was
a
watching
lot of good benefits.
I was reading a website. It might have been SSP, Father Hugo's website about SSPX Marian Corps, and he mentioned about the early days of SSPX that they would be willing really to go anywhere and say mass in somebody's house or in a hotel or whatever. And that's what we're going to see. Like as these cancellations continue, once Fraternity of St. Peter gets canceled, um, those priests will all be free agents and they can just wander around drive places and say masses. But you have to have like sort of an underground railroad, so to speak, where people let each other know, hey, over at the Joneses' house, there's going to be this Latin Mass Sunday morning at 8. And then Father's got to hop in the car and drive 3 hours and then do another Latin Mass over at the Smith's house and, wherever, who knows where, but it's 3 hours away. So there'll be circuits, and then the priest will be going through the week to hear confessions and to give, administer Holy Communion and whatnot. But the more priests that are canceled, then the more opportunity you will have. So it'll help. It helps the Underground Railroad if you have a chapel there. Now the priest is going to be a traveling roads, show. He's going to have his missal, his vestments, all that stuff in his car. So probably even an altar stone. So he'll just show up, pull out his stuff. Now, what do? You need to know how to serve mass. okay, if every man needs to know how to serve mass, even better if you have a man in the house that can serve mass or sing mass, and another one who can serve, and so you can have misa cantata all the time. Um, but be prepared for this stuff.
Yeah, and you also should have lectors, Eucharistic minister. No, I'm just kidding.
Parent Ryan's impressed. Parent Ryan would promote you if he heard that.
But how will you actively participate? Anyway,
yes, active participation. You should. You might have a vocation to the Society of Saint Paul VI. Who knew?
Maybe, and they could go around to private chapels, but it wouldn't even be a private chapel. It would just be like you just have to unfold your yoga mat, and they could do Ignatian yoga.
But they'll bring the helium tanks to blow up the balloons.
They'll bring the Buddha statue.
Buddha, of course, they'd have to do it all in public because for them it's all about show.
Yeah, live stream.
They would either live stream or they'd go out to the park. You know, the park where there's like the kid playing the guitar, the girls are swooning. Yeah, they're liturgical dancers.
The liturgical dance team.
They'll come up with a troupe of liturgical dancers that they'll hop out of the car and they'll be gyrating and twerking and whatever.
Do the Irish dance where you just kick. Anyway.
Yeah. Hey, let's go through and get these comments here. Let's go back. Starting at let's start at 718 RR.
I'm going scrolling back. Is this one?
Yeah. It's annoying when YouTube personalities clicks get into fights about people instead of issues. Yeah, that's juvenile. That's why we never really do diss tracks against people on this channel. But I mean, sometimes we do. But
I mean,
look,
we criticize like Lofton.
We criticize them, but why? Because their positions are wrong. Because they're wrong. And why do they have these positions? Not because they're intellectually honest, but because it's a motivation to get money and to advance higher degrees in Opus Dei. That's why.
Any video with the title with Taylor Marshall on the title.
If you put if you put somebody else's who is the target of your diss track in the title of the show, then you're basically stealing his thunder. I mean, I know sometimes we do it
I do it a lot. Like
you do it to imitate Father James Martin. You won't believe what he said. Critique of Father James Martin.
But
see, he deserves it. He's a heretic.
The thing is, you do believe what he said. I can't really do any of these shock. I can't even pretend to be shocked at what Father James Martin says. I haven't done a diss track against him for a long time, actually.
Well, he hasn't said a lot, though.
He does. On Twitter, he says, I mean, every day is like heresy. But it's like, okay, at that point, I did my one video against Father Casey Poole, and guess who criticized him?
Trent Horn.
Trent Horn from Catholic Answers. No, that's like the Novus Ordo world.
Yeah,
Trent Horn was critical of Father Casey.
I'm glad he did a diss track against Father Casey. So
and I got more views on that video that I posted like a year ago. So
really, so he stirred up more the
he got more interest in my video. It's like I've been saying this for a while, guys. You know? Like now the Novus Ordos are catching on. That's nice.
Yeah. Ad Voluntas 723. Breaking news! Francis condemns the rigid Moses for not joining in the interfaith prayer service with the Golden Calf sect. Where's my crumpled up papers? Here's Grumpy Pope. There's my Grumpy Pope. He's rigid and angry.
Moses was awesome. I've been reading. I was reading some Exodus this past year, and he was Moses is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
he's like your super trad.
He was. He was a base super trad. Yeah. 734 RR.
Skip forward here. What are the major Vatican II teachings? The hierarchy wants people to accept. It seems like most of them mean the Mass, but that's not even Vatican II. That's a good point.
Right. I don't know if there's any, because the hierarchy is stupid. Look at the dumb stuff Francis says. He talks about Vatican II, but he has no idea what he's talking about, because remember when he was on that stupid airplane with the Slovaks, and he said about some priest came to one of my friends and said, I want to learn Latin. And he said to him, oh, you need to calm down and learn Vietnamese and Spanish. And and Tagalog and all this other stuff. But dummy, Vatican II in the document on priestly formation says you have to learn Latin really well. Duh. But again, this is the liars. They're liars, frauds, and whatever else, because they claim to love Vatican II and they don't even know what's in it. So
Yeah,
I think that go ahead.
The Vatican II documents say Latin should be retained, and it's like
that's in the
these
liturgy
people are
document.
like, oh no, we need to banish all Latin. We shouldn't have any of it in the liturgy. We need the readings in the vernacular. It's like, people, what you're saying? Oh, Vatican II, Vatican II. You're saying Vatican II because you want to have the rainbows, and Vatican II doesn't have the rainbows. You know, like it doesn't blatantly. How do I want to say this? Never mind.
Yeah. So you mentioned the liturgy document, but in the document on priestly formation, it says that the priests have to learn Latin really well so that they can read the fathers and be formed by their history. And so Bergoglio rejects Vatican II, along with a bunch of these other people of the so-called Vatican II sect. They reject Vatican II. So I don't know what it doesn't mean anything. It's just code language for like the new mass. That's what it's code language for. Just like the new mass. Just like they tell you, just get the jab. There's no reasoning here. Just do what we say.
Just do it.
Michael Belmontes, 734, SSPX-MC Resistance rejects the deal that mainstream SSPX made with Rome in 2012. Yes, that's true. But I don't know if mainstream SSPX really made a deal with Rome. I mean, the deal was accept us as we are. And Rome said, okay. And then the next day they came back and said, like, oh, yeah, you got to accept Vatican II. And Fillet was like, no, we're not accepting Vatican II. The deal's off. So that's essentially what happened. Christopher Marlowe, 735. He's talking about Father Hesse here.
But where's this?
735, Christopher Marlowe.
Oh, the Hesse. This one?
Takes a set. No, it's above that, but it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's in reference to Father Hesse. He drank wine like every episode that he did. Trendy Webb in the next comment says that they mean religious liberty. Probably. That's sort of one of the super dogmas of Vatican II is the religious indifference. Trendy Web 737. Cardinal Pell says that SSPX should accept that not even Catholic states can coerce. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what Cardinal Pell said. He's not the best source of Catholicism. I don't know exactly what he means by coerce.
Yeah, I don't know.
Trendy Web 738. Start doing lay visitations instead of apostolic ones. That would be great. I'd love to. Actually, I wouldn't love to. It'd be scary to do a lay visitation to the Jesuits. But you'd probably discover some completely disgusting thing. You'd actually just have to go in there with Molotov cocktails and burn down the place, and like bring Swiss guards and arrest everybody and put them into an internment camp.
I think that would be actually kind of fun to do a lay apostolic visitation.
Yeah.
Bring my camera and I get a lot of views.
Yeah.
I don't know. And Father Mark Goring was saying that seminaries need investigated. Someone's got to do it, you know?
Yeah, it probably should be lay people because clerics can't be trusted to police themselves. RR 741. The Reprobated churches are hideous. They're all objectively ugly. I wonder if the ugliness is intentional. I think it is.
Yeah, probably.
Because the heresy is intentional and the lies. Remember, truth, goodness, and beauty all go together. They're the three transcendentals. So the lack of beauty betrays an underlying lack of truth and lack of goodness. And so I think that's why the Novus Ordo is ugly. Next one.
I think Peter the Byzantine was talking on one of the shows about the iconoclast heresy,
Yeah,
and we actually believe that the reprobations of churches are a new variation of the iconoclast heresy.
yeah, it's
And
true.
people, I forget who pointed this out, but they statues are just being torn down and thrown into the garbage, which is pretty horrible. Um, at Voluntas,
Yeah, next one. African Queen Gregory thanks Francis for allowing communion for pro-abortion politicians. Thank hell. He was there. Yeah, African Queen. This is what the Francis pontificate is about. It's about I was about to say abortion for everyone. Well, that's true. It's about communion for everybody. Trendy Web, next one. He's talking about the 60s here and why they reactivated. It was the age of Aquarius, man. The hierarchy just got back from Woodstock and wanted their churches to look like a concert stage, dude. Peace. Don't be so. Don't harsh my mellow, man. Pass the
Taking out my
Doritos.
guitar.
Yeah, where's your? Yeah, you were in a rock band. You know, you can go
Yeah.
out there and play your Jimi Hendrix or whatever. Oh, here's something. 752 RR. Mass of the Ages guy. That's Cameron, right? I don't know his last name. Do you know?
Cameron O'Hearn.
That's it.
He actually commented on one of my videos, which was
Yeah,
really
it
cool.
was the one that you reviewed, Mass of the
Yeah,
Ages. So
I want to
I'm glad he
give that
won.
thing more attention. Like,
Yeah,
go watch it. Give it some more views. Get it to a
yeah.
million.
It's got to get to 1 million. I demand it. He said he wanted to turn the conversation away from Vatican II's boring. Who wants to talk about it? The 60s Synod and how the new mass was made. I agree. When I learned about all that, I was shocked. Correct. New mass has practically nothing to do with Vatican II. New mass came out in 69. Vatican II finished in 65. New Mass had basically implemented nothing of what Vatican II talked about. New Mass is like a Masonic Protestant ceremony concocted by some heretics, Masons, and Satanists to destroy people's faith. And furthermore, if you believe in Vatican II, you have to reject the New Mass because, as you said, Vatican II called for the retention of Latin. Vatican II called for the retention of Gregorian chant. Vatican II called for no changes except very, very small ones. Vatican II said nothing about mass facing the people, said nothing about hand communion, said nothing about communion standing, said nothing about lay ministers of Holy Communion, said nothing about women doing anything. Again, if you believe in Vatican II, you have to reject the new Mass. RR 754. Accept Vatican II to the liberals seems to mean removing all supernatural elements from the church. So why don't the conservatives just interpret accepting Vatican II to mean nothing really changed? I think that's what the hermeneutic of continuity was trying to do, is saying, like, we accept Vatican II and it means nothing really changed. But see, the hermeneutic of continuities were unable to admit that the new Mass had nothing to do with Vatican II and it was not part of the hermeneutic of continuity. Again, if you want to believe in the hermeneutic of continuity, you have to flush the new Mass. If you believe in hermeneutic of continuity, you have to go and use the 1964 Roman Missal, the one that just has minor alterations from the 62 Missal. You can't accept the new Mass and say hermeneutic of continuity, believe in Vatican II.
I want to. So it's showing up. Here we go.
Not even so-called conservatives are really trad. That's true. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, and was it Eric Sammons that made this point? He said there's conservatives and there's traditionalists. Uh, Eric Sammons was interviewing Tim Flanders, and that was basically the point that they made. Tim Flanders said that there's conservatives, there's traditionalists. The traditionalists like the Latin Mass, and they're skeptical of Vatican II, and the conservatives are the ones who are the what do you call it, the extraordinary form Catholics, where they talk about the ordinary and extraordinary forms of
Yeah.
continuity. And then Tim Flanders actually said the liberals are the heretics
Yeah.
because they reject
They
church
are.
doctrine.
They
And I
do.
was like, I thought that was a pretty strong statement, but still, I mean, it puts things in perspective very well.
Yeah.
Wow. The comments flooding in here.
Christine Hurley, 754. Does Parent Ryan ever do the GIA Harvey Milk Rosary? I don't know what that is, so I
I don't
don't
either.
know. I don't know. If
I'm
it
not
says
into
rose,
pop culture.
if it's a rosary, I don't think that Parent Ryan is interested in it. Christopher Marlowe, 755. Pope Paul VI audience hall looks satanic. It is. If I was elected Pope, the first thing I would do is personally plant plastic explosive charges all over that monstrosity there. I would blow that whole grotesque thing up with my bare hands. I would probably put on an apron and destroy that. I would grind it up like the golden calf. And I would probably take some Jesuits and make them drink. I would mix the ashes and the powder of that monstrosity with water, and I would make Jesuits drink it. That's what should happen to that Paul VI audience hall.
Yeah, it's so ugly. Like it's unbelievable.
It's satanic. It's so ugly, it's evil. Michael Belmontes, 757. I found a Maronite church in Utah. Are they legit for confessions and mass? Haven't been to New Order Church in over a month. I don't know, John. You probably know more about the Maronites, and I know
Yeah,
that they really wrecked their liturgy.
yeah, they're an Eastern Catholic group. So I did watch a Maronite. I don't have a in-depth expertise into the Maronites, but what I do know is that their liturgy, whenever I've watched it, it looked mostly like the Novus Ordo, priests facing the people. The only really the one major difference between the Novus Ordo and the Maronite liturgy is that the consecration is chanted in Aramaic, which is the language that Jesus would have spoken, that Jesus spoke in, for the Gospels. And so he would have spoken the consecration, the words of the consecration in Aramaic during the Last Supper. So that I think that's significant. But I think Maronites are probably fine. You have to take a look and see what, the theology of it. You can see what
Well,
what's used for
I know for a
consecration.
fact that they wrecked their liturgy. I know for a fact
Yeah,
that before Vatican II, it was an authentic, like, Syriac rite, and they completely trashed the thing. Now, I don't know enough about it. I mean, I think that the confessions are valid. I think, I would hope so. I don't know exactly the concrete details of what's going on there. I mean, really, all you need to hear is "I absolve you of your sins," um, and if you have a real priest, then that's real confession. And you'd have to examine the details of that mass. But I would recommend. I don't. Is there Byzantines in Utah? Probably, or
well,
some other Eastern rite there that doesn't
it
have a
depends.
trashed liturgy.
It depends because there's mostly Mormons. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, but there's other
But
Catholics there in Utah.
yeah, Maronite. I mean, it's worth checking out. See what you think. I mean, you're gonna basically, if you go, it's gonna be similar to the Novus Ordo. Like you're gonna find more in common with the Novus Ordo than the Latin
But will
Mass.
they have the main objections of the Novus Ordo? Will they have hand communion? Will they have altar girls? Will they have lay ministers of Holy Communion?
I, I think there are female lectors. I believe I think altar girls are a possibility in the Maronite rite. Um,
Okay.
I think the music's going to be like more towards the Maronite tradition. Um, I think with a lot of these Eastern churches, it really depends on the church for the theology. It depends on like the pastor, because you can have a Byzantine liturgy where they're singing like no sort of songs. Unfortunately,
That's
like,
horrific.
but you just kind of have to go and see. You have to take that chance and find out for yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Next one, Christopher Marlowe, 759. Hermeneutic of continuity equals ignore the law of non-contradiction. Yes, that's hermeneutic of continuity. Pretend that there's something there, but there isn't. Trendy Web, 8 o'clock. New Mass isn't the Mass of Vatican II, but the Mass of the paper napkins. Yes. And he's referring to the fact that Eucharistic prayer 2 of the so-called New Mass was written on a paper napkin at a pizzeria the night before it was due, like a homework assignment. That's the New Mass.
So the story goes, we can't.
No, it's true. It is verified. It's verified 100% by a priest who was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was Father
I thought that was just a rumor.
Father Louis Boyer was there. He was at the pizza parlor. He was there as they wrote Eucharistic Prayer 2 on a napkin at the pizza parlor. It's a verified 100% fact.
Oh, boy.
Father Louis Boyer was there. Ad Voluntas 804.
Well, let's get to this one. What's worse, the Paul VI audience hall or the JP2
Oh,
Crooked
so
I
Paul
want to
VI
share.
audience hall is a lot worse than Crooked Cross.
I want to share my screen here. Let's see. Can you see it? So this is just a Google image search of Paul VI audience hall, and you can see like this is from the inside. So this is from the inside.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can see this horrific. Well, I guess you can't really see it too well from there. Now here's from the outside. It looks like a snake from the inside and the outside. Looks like a snake's head from the outside.
I can't see.
On the inside, look at this.
Yeah, it's grotesque.
I mean, what is that? And it looks like.
If you were a true pope, would you really want to set in front of that grotesque monstrosity?
Well, look at this thing. It's like it basically looks like it's attacking the person sitting right here. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's so horrific. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then what's the JP2? Let me see if I can find like JP2 Crooked Cross. See if that.
It's that melting thing right there.
This thing?
Yeah, that thing. That's the Crooked Crozier Cross thing. It was Paul VI actually. Somebody gave it to Paul VI. And so I don't know. That's a variation of it. You can see that's from Tradition in Action. Some of those are less grotesque than others.
Yeah, there's a lot of ugly art. I mean,
it's ugly because it came from the Paul VI era. It's hideous. I mean, if you want to know like what Benedict used, he got nice stuff. Benedict got the he has a triple barred cross that he used, and that was traditional. RR 805 Eucharistic Prayer 2 is the good one. No, that's not the good one. That's the one that takes it's like 10 words, then there's the consecration, and then it's all over. Maybe it's good if you want to get out, have an 18-minute Novus Ordo. That's the good one.
Yeah.
Christopher Marlowe, Snakehead with fangs. Michael Belmontes, blasphemous. Exactly. It's hideous. Who thought that this was a good idea? Nobody with their head screwed on straight. It's horrible.
It's just still traditional art.
Well, they had to make a new church, and so they had to do that to get rid of all the old stuff. 804. Pope of New York prays everyone gets holy sacrifice of the jab. Well, Francis advocates so her holiness can take over. He's talking about the Pope of New York is the governess. So the governess of New York prayed everyone, it's God sent this holy jab. Oh. And so, maybe Francis will step down so that she can rule the world, the governess of New York.
Well, I don't think that'll happen in other states. We'll see. The other states won't be happy about that.
Christopher Marlowe 808. Remember when Pope Francis carried a witch's stang? Yes. Remember when Parent Ryan got the witch's stang too?
Witch's staff.
Yeah, that was. I think that was one of those stupid synods that they had.
Well, yeah, and they've had like ugly monstrances too. Like it's crazy. There's just a lot of ugly art, but it's a little more pronounced in the Pope Francis era.
Yeah. So, well, John, I had the next note that we had there was, did you want to do, is there enough time in this show to do your comparison?
I think maybe we'll have to postpone that. Yeah, because that could probably be a longer discussion. Might have more input. But
Yeah.
maybe if we finish up some of the comments here, and,
Yeah. Go ahead.
this is great because we get the comments, and it's hilarious that we get the viewer input. I mean, I'm just cracking up at all these comments. So we're talking about the Pope Francis era and ugly art. What about the Pachamama idol? I mean, there was a lot of discussion about that and what it actually was. And people say it was Mother Earth, but then because they do have an actual photo of Our Lady of the Amazon, and she's wearing clothes.
Yeah.
Like it was an actual photo or an actual painting. Um, but the Pachamama idol, was it just the Vatican crazies just trying to be inclusive? Like
I don't know why that thing showed up.
I don't
Yeah,
know, but it was
Our
pretty
Lady of
bad.
the Amazon is a real, yeah, it's a real thing. And that naked, I mean, the whole thing, the that Pachamama is certainly not Our Lady, and if it is, why is she naked? It's just absurd to say that. It's such a lie. It's such a
Yeah,
lie. And then Where Peter Is calls her Our Lady of the Amazon. Where Peter is should be renamed Where Pachamama Is. It's a
I saw
horrific.
this interesting. One thing about that, I saw this interesting thing at the bottom of their website. Well, this wasn't me. Someone else pointed this out. It was ad voluntas. I don't know if that's what it is. What's the ad gloriam? Is that the motto of the Jesuits? Ad gloriam.
Ad maiorem Dei gloriam, for the
Okay,
greater, to the greater glory of God, or for the greater glory of God.
now that motto was listed at the bottom of their website, and so someone
Hmm.
said, "Oh, they're getting Jesuit funding where
Could
Peter
be.
is."
Yeah, Where Peter Is could be a Jesuit propaganda arm.
Yeah, and so I mean, are you surprised? Same with the distorter. The distorter probably doesn't even get Catholic money. They probably get like atheist money to
Probably like
pretend to be
Soros
Catholic.
money.
I actually did some research on them. I'm not entirely sure exactly. I'll have to take a look at my notes, but I know that their editor was paid like 100,000 a year, which is pretty nice money. You definitely, you know, hire an atheist and distort the Catholic faith. This is pretty funny. Um, I can see that my. Oh, here we go. Whoops. Harry Potter Synod.
Yeah. So they bring together and they discuss policies for evangelization of Muggles and and migrants and half bloods and whatever else. I don't know.
Well,
They
I
say
mean,
that they have ecumenical dialogue between Slytherin and Hufflepuff, and of course everybody casts a spell.
Tim Gordon has hair like Severus Snape. I just thought of that.
Maybe he is Severus Snape.
Well, the Vatican certainly belongs to Slytherin with that called the Sixth Audience Hall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, what is it? The Pachamama. So this is the. I think this is an opinion that I've seen that I was trying to refer to. It was just some weird thing the Germans bought in the market.
Could be true.
I don't know. See that's one of the theories. I don't know. I mean, it certainly has some credibility there.
Could be true.
Um, yeah, let's see. I don't think they ever intended to worship it. They just wanted to use Catholicism as a platform for community organizing. Well, Bolsonaro, I don't know who that is.
He's the Brazilian president. He's like a
Oh, okay.
Trump type figure.
Yeah, except Brazil's massively compromised.
Well, I mean, they did elect Bolsonaro, who's an actual Christian and sort of a right winger. Um, and indigenous, they liked it because it was an indigenous. But somebody pointed out, did you know that there is like a real, even in America, there's a genuine like Pachamama worship sect. And
No, I didn't know that.
yeah, who was it? It might have been Meaning of Catholic pointed this out, or Flanders. No, it was Return to Tradition pointed this out, that there's like a Pachamama worship center someplace in California. There's Pachamama worship videos out there. That it is a real false god type thing. And now I don't know how, if it was brought intentionally or unintentionally, but anyway, it's a real deal.
Sync on Synod brought to you by Focus.
Bogus Day. That's a good nickname for the Opie Dopies. Ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen, you know we take lots of super chat money, but we've never taken any Bogus Day money, okay?
That we know of.
Well, that we know of, yeah. Remember when I did that one show where Mr. Vatican II
Oh yeah,
offered us to sell out for
yeah.
lots
The
of
April
Opus Day
Fools.
money? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
it was a big April Fools Day.
Lily 814, serious question. Statue in Paul 6. What level of hell in Dante's Inferno is that? That might be the lowest. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
Trendy Web 814. Francis never used St. Peter's main altar since the Pachamama incident. I actually think he did celebrate Mass on that altar within the past 2 or 3 months. The altar was barren since the Pachamama incident, but then I think he used it for at some point. But it's been used because now there's like ordinary priests who are using that altar. Yeah.
And is it bad that like I don't even pay attention to those stories anymore? Like they say, oh, this is a symbol of the Pachamama worship. And I think it was LifeSite that ran that story or something.
Mm-hmm.
I just clicked past it because I'm like, I don't even pay attention to what goes on in Rome very much. Like
Yeah.
in terms of St. Peter's Basilica, I don't. To me, I just really don't have a lot of. I have a lot of apathy for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not interesting. I don't know. To me,
Yeah.
I'm like over it.
Yeah. Like
Say a
Vatican
Latin Mass
II.
and I'll pay attention.
Forget about it. Yeah, just forget about it. Like Vatican II. Patty at
Oh, my friend
8:15.
Patty.
Yeah, Ireland representing in the house. Next
My hat to
conclave
Patty.
will be X Factor with a well-rigged phone-in voting system. Klaus Schwab is tipped to compete in it, whatever. Yeah, definitely. Because I said the next conclave is going to be crooked. First, they're not going to allow the unjabbed to get in there and vote. Second, they might not even let them all live in the same building because they'll claim it's dangerous because of the virus.
Yeah.
And so I could see the next thing doing mail-in votes. They'll do mail-in votes, and they won't even check the integrity of the ballots. They'll be like doing electronic counting. So at 3 a.m. you'll have all these votes come in there for Tegel or who's that guy from Honduras who's a train wreck?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, right?
What's his name? Maradiaga?
Yeah, Maradiaga. So you'll get all these votes for either Maradiaga
Oh,
or Tegel.
Wow. Well, so at my work today, I made the comment. People were saying the mail was slowing down. They were not guaranteeing like 1 day delivery for first class or something, whatever it is. And I said, oh, they're just preparing for the next election.
Yeah.
And you wait for the number of votes to come in, and you say, oh, we got them all.
Got them all. Yeah. As soon as the results are where you like, then the mail shuts off, and there's no more counting.
There you go. Same with the Vatican. That's going to be the same with the Vatican mail. Oh,
yeah.
we're terribly delayed. We have to wait for a while we get some of those votes in from the McCarrick network.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course there'll be a scandal. They'll be like, "Oh, would you believe that the conservative cardinal, he used a racial slur some time ago, or he was seen in blackface in the year 1943 when he was 8 years old, so he obviously can't be Pope." What if it's like, then the joke's on them because they're actually talking about Cardinal Sarah. No, his face is like that all the time. Okay.
So the voting results, there were 180 votes for Cardinal Cupich. I'm like, wait, aren't there like 120 eligible voting cardinals? Like, oh.
Well, then they'll do a forensic audit, but it'll take 4 years to happen, and by then already Catholicism is forbidden.
We need a second mail-in, recount.
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
RR 817 Parolin. Yeah, Parolin just put in COVID protocols. So there you go. Again, yeah, you can't get into the Vatican. I think you can get in if you have a negative test.
Yeah, I don't think they're completely. I don't think they're completely Jab Crow at this point. Like,
not completely.
I think right now Burke would be able to make it in.
Yeah, I think so. He just
at this point.
Yeah, at this point, but who knows what's going to happen. Louis Marie de Montfort, 818. What are your thoughts on flat Earth? I don't believe in flat Earth, because St. Thomas said that the world is round, and the Bible does too. So I don't believe in flat Earth, but I don't think it's a heresy. I guess you could believe it if you wanted to.
I think you need to follow the science. Take a
That's
flight around
right.
the world. See if
Yeah,
it ends.
yeah. Trendy Web. Pray we get Trendy Web 818. Pray we get another Pius IX, but be prepared for Francis II, Paul 7, or John 24. Yeah, who knows?
I think Francis mentioned something about John the 24th.
He did. In 2025, he said John the 24th will be Pope. So
we'll see. Well, but if Pope John
We'll
the
see.
24th would be like Saint John, the evangelist,
yeah.
then we'd be in a lot better shape. So that doesn't guarantee anything, but who knows? All right, do you want to take a few more comments and then
Yeah, and then we'll cut off. So as of right now, no new comments.
Okay.
We're not gonna, even if no matter how funny or delightful it is, we won't save it for next time. Yeah, even Paul or John would be too trad for these people. Absolutely. Paul VI actually spoke Latin, and he celebrated the Old Mass before. So he'd be some kind of disgusting rad trad to these people.
So I heard with Paul VI, he wrote Humana Vitae, and that was the last encyclical he wrote for like 10 years.
Right. He never did anything except complain about Archbishop Lefebvre from 1968 till 1978 when he died. That's all he did. Good. Yeah. All he did those last 10 years was complain about Archbishop Lefebvre.
Here's an interesting one.
Thoughts on geocentrism. I believe it because I think it's scientific and it's what the Bible teaches in the magisterium, but I'm no expert or anything like that. So
yeah, I think E. Michael Jones was talking about the sun revolving around the earth or something. It was an interesting concept. I don't know. I mean,
well, Robert Sougenis was the guy who kind of really brought that back and said it's, despite the fact that the modernists and those who have an inferiority complex, they're like, oh, we believe the scientists. But the scientists have no idea what they're talking about. They do a couple experiments and then they interpret it the way they want. But Robert Sougenis has shown that the experiments actually can prove geocentrism.
Okay, and the final comment from Patty. Maybe Martin would suffice after. Is that the name of the Pope?
I think, yeah, he's talking about Pope Martin.
Pope Martin Luther the First.
Yeah, first. No, the only, because there ain't going to be any more popes after Martin Luther. That's for sure. He'll abolish the papacy. It'll be Martin Luther, the only.
What about Pope Martin Luther King? He's a saint in the Jesuit province.
Yeah, well, he was just a saint, just a martyr in the Jesuit province.
Yeah, and I would certainly go with that.
Yeah.
So, well, we cut off comments. So
no, I don't care how interesting they are. Ad voluntas, no more comments ever. Well, no, just the rest of the show. But
just the rest of the show. You can comment on the video once it's
once the video is finished. Put all the comments, shares. Remember, as they say, comment, like, subscribe, send to your grandmother or your aunt, retweet it on tweet, put it on Facebook, like record it to DVD and send it to people elsewhere.
Yeah, I see one of our favorite Canadians, the Catholic.
Oh, yeah, by the way, okay, so Catholic Northman is here. This is our opportunity. Catholic Northman, get in contact with John because we want to do a show with you sometime. We wanted to do.
See if you can leave your email in the chat or something like that. I want to contact
if it's public, because we don't want to like expose you or whatever.
But I'll delete it after I get it.
Okay, because what we wanted to do was do a show with some like not super duper YouTubers like Taylor Marshall, but with some lower tier YouTubers. And I said, well, let's get on Catholic Northman and we'll do a show with him. Let's get on Ascent of Mount Carmel. Let's try to get on Brother Martin.
Yeah, you guys got to tweet him.
Yeah, so we got somebody get us Brother Martin's contact information, give it to John, so that way we can and you can PM Parent Ryan on Twitter. You can DM Parent Ryan on Twitter.
Or
and
me, John
or
the Son
John.
of
Okay,
Thunder.
John, you have a handle, and then that way we can do because we want to do a show with Brother Martin, and maybe we could also do a show with the Glad Trad guys, their channel.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. To me, like it's tough right now with the time.
Well, we don't have to do it
It's
next
still being
week.
nice
I mean,
weather,
if we
but
plan
down the
this
road,
stuff out into the
yeah.
winter, yeah.
Oh yeah, down the road we want to get on some good interviews, and we'd like to talk to a lot of people. It's always nice to have different people talking to us.
Yeah, Father Anthony Hannon, and what?
Yeah, he might
he
be tough because I don't know how well his internet is.
Yeah, I know because he's in the wilderness or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think he even live streamed his masses because he was having trouble with that. So that might be pretty tough.
Yeah. But, so anyway, that's just some of the people we were looking to try to get some of these. I don't want to call them. They're minor YouTube stars.
Yeah, we just want to do the collaboration thing.
Collaborate. We do cross promotion because everybody's got an interesting story to tell, and so
All right.
So we'll just do some of these minor people. Again, it'd be great if we could get Taylor Marks. Well, John, you reached out to, I think you reached out to Bishop Schneider and
no, not Schneider.
Bishop Archbishop Gullickson.
Yes.
So we'll see if he responds. So
well, he did respond, and I don't. He actually, it was actually pretty interesting. I emailed him some questions, and he said like, okay, yeah, thank you, Catholic Northman. You can delete your comment. Archbishop Gullickson said he didn't have time necessarily to get to my questions, but he did acknowledge the YouTube channel. So Archbishop Gullickson, if you're watching,
top fan.
Maybe if you are watching, I just want to say
he's ad voluntas. That's Archbishop Gullickson.
Wouldn't that be funny? But yeah. Anyway,
Brother Bugnolo. I mean, he would be interesting. I don't know a lot about him. I think he's from Philadelphia, but he could tell us all about the Benedict as Pope position. What about Gracita? Did you contact him?
I did. He didn't get back to me.
Okay.
He's 98 years old, so I don't know if he gets back to everyone.
There's also, I would like, if there's anybody who's a set of a contest. Ad voluntas is actually Pope Francis. Is that you?
Well, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Your Holiness.
I mean, what can I say?
I know, I was so sidetracked. What was I talking about before he said I am Francis? Oh yeah, a set of a contest. I actually would like to get a genuine set of a contest to interview one of those. But I like, who are the YouTubers? Like Defeat Modernism, but I don't know a lot about him. The Diamond Brothers, no, they're too big.
Well, we'll take people that are big. Yeah,
I guess you're right. We would take somebody big.
I'd even like to have Tim Gordon on this channel to talk about his book. If he would, probably not, but
yeah,
All right, well, that's all I got.
That's enough.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us in the chat. It was a great chat today. We always appreciate your comments.
Is Tridentine Crusader, is he a set of a contest?
I don't know.
I don't know who that is, but anyway.
You can comment in the regular video, in the comments.
Comment in the regular, and if you know somebody who you could suggest, that would be cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching, everyone. This has been Thunder and Lightning Show. We are the laity,
and we will not be silent.